Hello, everybody. I just woke up. Good morning. I've got my coffee here. Thought I would make a video on overall senses of happiness and the different positive emotions versus the different negative emotions. So a person would have a clearer idea of, okay, what are positive emotions and what are negative emotions? Because, like I've talked about, positive emotions are the ones that make you happy, the ones that feel good. Negative emotions are the ones that don't make you feel good, so they make you feel bad. So, if we can have a better understanding of what is a positive emotion and what is a negative emotion, then we might be able to look at people in our lives and be able to scrutinize and be able to see, okay, are they experiencing good emotion or bad emotion? From a professional perspective, in the workplace, you can see, okay, are my coworkers, are my employees experiencing things in a positive way or in a negative way? And then for your own personal well-being, of course, you can take a look and say, I myself am experiencing positive versus negative emotion. So basically, in my mind, there's a constellation of main negative emotions. So, in my head, I've thought of it as a diamond. So, the diamond is four different negative emotions that more or less make up the spectrum of negativity in a person's life. So, these would be anger, fear, sadness, and then an overall pessimistic view, negative view of the world. So, four different sort of broad ranging human emotions that tend to make a person unhappy. They have a subjective bad sense, bad quality to them. They don't feel good, right? So, you can come up with little tiny aspects of that, like for anger. So, anger is a negative emotion in the sense that although it has been shown to motivate people forward, so which is why you see so many people they get into these long YouTube arguments where they're arguing at people. Anger is an approach emotion. So when you're angry at something, you actually want to express your anger, and it makes you, in a sense, it's more extroverted because you are giving your anger, you're saying your anger to someone. Whereas sadness is a withdrawn emotion. So physiologically, with anger, you get sort of revved up. You have a kind of feeling in your chest that isn't very good. You're not feeling very good, but you have this obviously angry sense, and then you yell at somebody. Whereas sadness tends to be something like, you get withdrawn, you go slower, you talk less, you don't feel, you feel generally like you're pulling into yourself. So if we can generalize, we can see that an angry individual is one who, expresses that anger quite often. Um, and then maybe to a smaller degree, the grumpy, miserable person, they are still angry, but they do it in, a more consistent sort of lighter way. And we could say that hatred is an extreme form of anger where this sense of outrage and righteous justice, inner sense of like feeling really bad about the world and wanting to change it, it can motivate a person to do, violent, hateful acts or express extreme hatred towards somebody else in the terms of, wanting them to die or something like that. But sadness, yeah, it's that more sort of withdrawn spectrum. Depression as well is kind of a more holistic sense of sadness. It's this sense of withdrawing from the world, isolating yourself. So sadness, if you're picking out, say, which of my coworkers are happy, which are angry and which are sad, you can see the angry ones are probably expressing it more, and the sad ones are probably more withdrawn. So I personally think it's a little bit more difficult to see if whether somebody's sad or not, because if someone's sad, they might just fly under the radar. You might not even be able to tell that they are sad, right? So there's anger, sadness, and then fear is another negative emotion. So fear, from a biological perspective, things like antelope have fear, right? And rabbits, a lot of prey animals have fear, but so do predator and most animals, most mammals, and it's a very old sort of emotion. It takes place in the amygdala. So basically, the fear response is one of flight. You see something scary and you got to run away from it. So it's a protective thing, as are all emotions. Sadness has a protective evolutionary aspect to it. There's a hypothesis that it conserves energy in a famine, things like that. And anger, obviously, this anger has some kind of social benefit, and maybe a very primitive social hierarchy where expressing anger can get you sort of attack a potential suitor for the mate you're trying to get with and stuff like that. So these things all have evolutionary precursors, but with fear, obviously it doesn't feel good, and that's what I'm going over again, is that negative stuff does not feel good, and it's as simple as that. Is that the negative things that you're experiencing don't feel good inside, so you have to change your mentality to believe that okay, the negative stuff is not making me feel happy inside. And honestly, happiness is the opposite side of the spectrum. Happiness is its own thing that makes you feel good. Happiness, really, the positive emotions, as contrast with the negative ones, are ones that generally have a good subjective feeling inside. They just make you feel good, relaxed, at peace, free, happy, nice. It's positive. Whereas the negative ones, we can say generally, are the ones that make you feel twisted up and sad and removed and unhappy, and you feel inside, you get a stressful headache and you get removed from everybody else. So the last part of that negativity that I would like to talk about is an overall worldview of negativity, and this is where it gets really complicated, I find. So there are certain worldviews, I believe, that are more negative. Generally, we can say that being pessimistic, so in the sense of thinking the future is going to be bad, and this can result in different negative emotions, so fear, anger, sadness as well. A lot of depressed people simply don't think the future will ever be good for them. We can think of it as the opposite side of hope. So hope is the sense of like, the future's going to be good. I don't know how, maybe it will, but I believe that it will. Pessimism is the sense of the future's going to be bad. I know it's going to be bad. It's going to, things are going bad. And you can generally, you can have an intellectual sense that the world might be becoming a worse place in many ways, climate change, perhaps war and globalization, COVID right now, you never know. But I think generally the positive mindset is one of, well, whatever happens, we will face it as a species, as individuals, whatever my family goes through, we will do our best to match the tragedies and deal with whatever the terrible situations are. We can get through it together. We'll get through it. Our city will get through it. We'll find ways to cope, and we'll find ways to make it through it. But the pessimistic, depressed sort of side is that, well, if these things come up, then there's no fighting them. It's a lost cause. It's hopeless. So there's hope on the positive side, and then hopelessness on the negative side. So basically, you can see that there's a lot of even though this is sort of like drawing with crayons in terms of what is negative emotion, so we've got sort of the main colors, there's a lot of spectrums and shades. So is something being bittersweet a negative emotion? Is longing a negative emotion? Is sort of Machiavellian political politics a negative emotion? I would say that there is a hint of negativity attached to a lot of very, particularly things like gossiping, or sort of slightly trying to sabotage somebody else, or a sort of egotistical building yourself up against somebody else. They have a slight sense of negativity to them. And, as I'll talk about a little bit, the negative emotions separate you. And this is kind of getting into a more spiritual, perhaps religious and philosophical view, is that the negative emotions tend to isolate you as a physical body. So negativity, we can almost think of it completely as a sense of egotism, as sort of a narcissism of the self in many ways, even sadness. Basically, negativity has biological precursors that are about this physical body escaping a situation, beating a rival, or just generally, like, woe is me, disconnected from other physical bodies, other people. Whereas positivity, I'll now go into, positivity is about connecting yourself to the universe, the world, your life, your family, your friends, your city, your tribe in a older environment, things like that. So those are kind of the negative emotions, and then the positive ones would be something like, here's the general constellation that I have, although you can sort of think of it in your own ways. I would suggest looking up a bunch of synonyms for happiness, or what happiness researchers talk about, what makes somebody happy, and then try to emulate these responses and things like that. But in terms of a happiness constellation, I would say gratitude and thankfulness is one aspect. Friendliness and sociability, and curiosity and interest. And then the overarching one is one of hope and optimism. So we can say that gratitude and appreciation is kind of the mirror side of, let's say, anger, perhaps not completely, but anger is a sense of like, you've wronged me, you're awful, I hate you, you're stupid. But instead, thankfulness is more of the sense of like taking stock of what you have in your life, looking like, oh, okay, I have a house, I have an apartment, I have a place to live, I have a warm bed, I have my friends and family, I have coworkers, I have whoever, I have all these people to talk to, I have things in my life I'm happy about, makes me feel appreciated and feel, appreciative of life itself to be able to talk to all these people and have these people in my life. Something like that, right? So maybe not the flip side of anger, but it's you can see how it's a different sort of way of approaching the world, where on the one side you are withdrawing into yourself, and this is my ego and I'm protecting myself, and you've wronged me and now I have to make it right. And then on the gratitude side, you're thinking like, I'm part of such a big system, I'm just part of this. It is kind of a spiritual sense of oneness. So then we've got appreciation and thankfulness, which I had a video on, and there are many resources on that one. And then there is also the sense of friendliness and sociability. So this is a huge part of positivity, which is the sense of saying like, hello, how are you, how's it going, how's the weather, how's your family, how's your job, what's going on, having a conversation, having a laugh, friendliness, and just generally having a good time with people and connecting with people. So this is really the root of human positive behavior is sociability, which if you think back again, it's in contrast to isolation. So sadness, you cut off from people, you stop talking, you break down, you go in your room and you hide away from people. Sociability, you are connecting with people, you are saying hello, you're trying to make a connection, you're trying to accept and form bonds with other people. In many ways, sociability is its own sense of oneness with other people as well, because you are getting past this physical body that's removed from everybody else, and are now interacting with that physical body and that physical body, in the sense of having some kind of community and really like getting out there and interacting with other people. So sociability is a huge one. It's the basis of human behavior is being social. So then what else we've got is another side of the spectrum is the sense of curiosity, fascination, awe, and we can even say drive and motivated, ambitious behavior. For me, it's curiosity. So like the thing that really has motivated me throughout a lot of my life is an intellectual curiosity, but also curiosity of experiences and things like that, where I've just wondered, like, what is this like? How does this work? Something like that. And then having that curiosity about the world or a certain part of it, like I'm looking at my printer right now and I'm thinking like, yeah, how does this work? Like, how does it seriously work? And I haven't looked into it for a while in terms of like the ink and all this stuff in the paper, how how it works and how it was developed. Where did the first printer come from? And so you can easily get into a sense of awe. You're thinking like, wow, like everything I take part in, is part of this giant global historical thing. I'm part of a zeitgeist that is experiencing things right now. Once again, it's kind of a sense of oneness. The curiosity takes you from just your head. You can think of a monkey that's, a monkey isn't curious about the world around it in the same way we are. They might be kind of curious, but a monkey is just there. But a human being, we can look at a lamp, or we can look at a stop sign, or we can look at another human being or whatever and be like, where did they come from? What's their story? The context of their life in a bigger global way in terms of the universe and Earth and human civilization. These things bring meaning and sort of a sense of attachment and wonder with the rest of the world, right? And then on the top of the sort of constellation is the opposite of the negative philosophical view of pessimism. It's one of optimism, which, like I've said, whatever happens in the world, we will look forward to it and match it and try and do the best we can with it. So basically, once again, to reiterate, positive emotions make you feel good, negative emotions make you feel bad. Now, if you're going to try to do anything with your life in terms of a bigger overarching goal, in terms of things that drive you and the things that you want, like say you want to start a business, or you want to get a degree, or you want a family, or whatever, you have to think of like, why are you doing this? And I'm going to make another video about how human happiness is really I would say the ultimate goal of existence, of our existence, is to be happy. Everything we do is in order to be happy. And so it's really kind of in order to feel good. Like the Dalai Lama says, happy actions, positive actions actually make you feel good, so you should do them. The negative stuff, it's not like hatred and anger and sadness, they're just arbitrarily like, okay, you arbitrarily choose the positive ones. You arbitrarily choose to be friendly. You arbitrarily choose to be curious and open-minded and positive. It's not an arbitrary thing at all. It's really not. Like, it makes a lot of sense why you should avoid negative action, because the anger, even if you're used to it, it doesn't feel good. You might be used to not feeling good, but just because you're used to poison doesn't mean you gotta still be poisoned, right? So basically, overall, I would say that you should understand the cluster of positive emotions and the cluster of negative emotions so that you can recognize this. And also, a big thing I had an issue with, but I think it's important to keep it in mind, is once you're aware of what negativity looks like, sadness, anger, hatred, fear, and once you're aware of what positive behavior looks like, sociability, thankfulness, awe, ambition, and curiosity, and then an optimistic outlook, you can look at other people and be like, this person's positive, that person's negative, and I get that, and I'm not going to emulate the negative person, I'm going to emulate the positive person. And if this person is negative, we're all human, and like I said, these sort of emotions are very natural. So, if somebody is afraid or unhappy or angry, you don't have to get mad at them and be like, oh, they're such a negative person, they're such a bad influence on my life, how terrible they are. Realize that they're already withdrawing into themselves, and that feels bad. So you can connect with them and try to help them out, and still be sociable and sort of overcome their negativity. Or if they're really, really negative and you can avoid them, then maybe it is best to pull back from them and connect to positive people and surround yourself with positive people, because we're basically the mix of the 5 closest people in our life. So if the 5 closest people are negative, you're probably going to feel more negative. If they're positive, then you're probably going to feel more positive. So that's my video on the negative and the positive emotions. Hopefully that helped y'all, and have a good day. Bye bye.